Hello everyone, thank you so much for tuning in today, and thank you so much for all that you do to make this channel a success. Just in case you're meeting us for the first time, please do hit the like and subscribe button, and also click on the notification bell so you can get the news as soon as we upload them. So, 2027, will the North gamble on Peter Obi's 4-year deal? Will the North buy into Peter Obi's 4-year deal that promises to return power to the region after one term, even when he is constitutionally eligible to do 8 years? Or will it instead prefer Tinubu, who is constitutionally barred from contesting again if re-elected in 2027, after which power can then return to the North in 2031? Which option the North consider safer and more predictable? Tinubu's fixed exit plan or Obi's voluntary 4-year pledge, even with Kwankwaso potentially on the ticket as vice president? Can the North trust that Obi would willingly relinquish power after only one term, despite the enormous power of incumbency? Will the North consider Obi's 4-year promise uncertain because of Nigeria's political history and the constitutional reality that he would still be entitled to another term? Will the North gamble its presidential future on a political promise that has no constitutional guarantee? These are the questions dominating conversations as the NDC zoned its presidential ticket to the South during its convention at the weekend. The NDC held its convention during the weekend, where party leaders zoned the presidency to the South for a 4-year term. With the arrangement, the party seems to be backing Peter Obi, who recently joined the party to run for the presidency for a 4-year term, after which he would hand over power to Kwankwaso in 2031. Kwankwaso is highly speculated as Obi's vice presidential candidate in the 2027 presidential election. At first glance, the arrangement that emerged at the NDC convention appears politically smart, as it offers a pathway for Obi's candidacy since he dumped the ADC coalition. Obi and supporters believe the new arrangement with Kwankwaso will help them get Northern support strong enough to challenge the ruling APC and President Bola Tinubu in 2027. The calculation is simple. Peter Obi retains substantial popularity in the South, especially among his obedient supporters, while Rabiu Musa Kwankwaso remains one of the most influential Northern politicians with a loyal grassroots structure in Kano and parts of the Northwest, putting the two together under one platform. Obi's supporters believe both of them can potentially challenge President Bola Tinubu in 2027. However, beyond the excitement surrounding the proposed Obi-Kwankwaso ticket is a question that many Northern political stakeholders will quietly be asking. Can the North truly trust the promise of a 4-year presidency? Historically, the North has always approached power-sharing arrangements with the South with strategic caution. Agreements reached during campaigns sometimes become inconvenient after victory. That is why the proposed arrangement may sound attractive on paper but complicated in reality. The central issue of the arrangement is simple. If Peter Obi becomes president in 2027, what guarantees are there that he will willingly step aside in 2031, despite being constitutionally entitled to seek another 4-year term? The Nigerian constitution allows a president to serve 2 terms of 4 years each. Once sworn in, Obi as the commander-in-chief would possess every legal and political right to contest again, even if he personally intends to honor a single-term understanding. Politics is rarely a one-man show. Pressure from supporters, political allies, party loyalists, and regional interests like the Ohaneze Ndị Igbo could easily change the equation by 2031. History also gives northern politicians reasons to be cautious. Many in the north still remember the crisis that followed the death of former President Umaru Musa Yar'Adua in 2010. Goodluck Jonathan, then Vice President, constitutionally succeeded Yar'Adua after his death and completed the remainder of the administration's tenure under the informal zoning arrangement within the PDP at the time. Many northern politicians believed Jonathan was expected to complete the term and allow power to return to the north. But Jonathan contested the 2011 election, won, and then sought another term again in 2015. While Jonathan acted within his constitutional rights, many northern political actors felt betrayed because they believed an unwritten political understanding had been broken. That Yar'Adua's episode permanently shaped northern political calculations. Since then, the region has become more skeptical of informal power sharing promises that lack constitutional enforcement. It is one thing for politicians to shake hands during coalitions. It is another thing entirely for a sitting president to voluntarily surrender power after tasting the enormous influence of the Nigerian presidency. This is a challenge many consider may blight the NDC arrangement. The party may genuinely believe that zoning the presidency to the south for only 4 years is enough to reassure the north and secure Kwankwaso's participation. Northern politicians and their institution will ask practical questions. What if his supporters begin nationwide campaigns urging him to continue beyond 2031? Would Southeast watch one of their own being shoved aside, having not been at the highest echelon of power? Would Obi resist the pressure? Would the NDC itself have the strength to stop an incumbent president and commander-in-chief from seeking re-election? As our contemporary political history has shown, incumbency in Nigeria is a powerful weapon. Once a president controls federal appointments, security institutions, party structures, and state resources, political agreements made before elections often become secondary. Even parties themselves struggle to challenge sitting presidents. Nigerian political history is filled with examples of politicians changing positions once political realities change. Even during the military era, Ibrahim Babangida's Maradonic transition program ensured he remained in power for 8 years. This is why the North may quietly conclude that supporting Tinubu for another 4 years is politically safer than gambling on an uncertain promise from Obi. For all the criticism against Tinubu's administration, one thing remains clear. If Tinubu wins re-election in 2027, he cannot constitutionally seek another term after 2031. His political exit timetable is already fixed by law. From the perspective of Northern power calculations, this creates certainty. The North can confidently prepare for a return to presidential power in 2031 without depending on gentleman's agreement or political promises. With Obi, however, the situation is less predictable. A victorious Obi in 2027 would become an incumbent president eligible for another 4 years. The North would essentially be relying on trust rather than constitutional certainty. In contemporary Nigerian politics, trust is often taken with a pinch of salt. Another factor complicating the arrangement is the ambition of Kwankwaso himself. The former Kano governor has contested for presidency before and still commands a significant following through the Kwankwasia movement. Would Kwankwaso truly be comfortable waiting until 2031 based purely on political assurances, or would he eventually fear being politically sidelined within an Obi presidency dominated by new powers, blocks, and competing interests? What power does a vice president poses in an all-powerful Nigerian presidency? Coalitions in Nigeria are notoriously unstable because they are usually driven more by immediate electoral calculations. Once elections are won or lost, internal contradictions quickly emerge. The APC itself was born from a grand coalition in 2013, but internal rivalries eventually surfaced after power was secured. The same risk exists within any Obi-Kwankwaso arrangement. There is also the regional factor. Obi enjoys support in the South and especially in the Southeast. If he becomes president, Obedience may reject the idea of limiting him to one term simply because of a pre-election deal. They could argue that competence, not rotation, should determine leadership continuity. As it happened in the past, the North may discover that political arrangements made during negotiations have little value against the force of incumbency and public popularity. Still, the proposed arrangement shows how desperate politicians have become to build a coalition capable of challenging Tinubu in 2027. They understand that defeating an incumbent president in Nigeria requires an unusual broad alliance cutting across regions, religions, and political interests. The Obi-Kwankwaso formula is an attempt to create that balance. But whether the North buys into the NDC arrangement is another matter entirely. The Northern Power Bloc, its elites and institutions under Nigeria's politics, they think long-term about power. And for many of them, the key issue may not even be whether Obi is sincere. The bigger issue is whether sincerity survives political power. Nigerian politics has repeatedly shown that today's arrangement can become tomorrow's forgotten promise. This much has been demonstrated in Nigerians' contemporary political history. It happened under the military when Babangida took the country on a wild goose chase of transition program in his attempt to hold onto power. Obasanjo was rumored to have attempted to amend the constitution to have a third term. Former President Goodluck Jonathan renewed on his political arrangement and defied the North by contesting the 2015. That is why the NDC zoning arrangement may generate excitement, especially among the obedient, but convincing the North to fully trust a 4-year Obi presidency could prove far more difficult. So my friends, my people, this is what is happening. I mean, it's all being said. The North are not very sure what's going to happen if Obi gets into power. And we all know that, power is something in Nigeria, mostly within the presidency. It's something that once you get in there as an incumbent president, you've got a lot of power because you are the commander-in-chief. You have the security behind you. You have the money. You have everything at your beck and call. So I mean, it's usually very, very difficult, mostly when there's a constitutional power for you to be able to run again. Most times, I mean, we've seen several times where people they renege on their coalition promises, and they do exactly the same thing. They have to rerun. Even come down to President Goodluck Jonathan had to rerun, even when he was supposed to relinquish power to the North, because he completed the tenure of President Umaru Musa Yar'Adua. You see, so this is the thing. And right now, the Northern politicians, I mean, the elites, they are very skeptical right now that this is not constitutionally based. It's just going to be a gentleman's agreement, a handshake, and those sort of things, which obviously, when the time comes, they are not sure if Obi is going to honor his arrangements with Kwankwaso. Another thing again, it's been said right that one thing is that the Southeast, more specifically, haven't tested power for a very long time, you see. So again, we know in Nigeria, an Igbo man, nobody, in fact, most of Nigerians, mostly the North, doesn't want an Igbo man to rule the country. So imagine an Igbo man getting the power for the first time. What's going to happen? That's the fear for the Kwankwaso movement and for most elite politicians in the North. But let's see how it plays out, because I mean, one thing I know, we should and can give it a try and see how it goes. However it is, even if Obi doesn't relinquish power to the North in 2031, it's only 4 years. Nigeria is how many years old? So power can still return to the North. If we say that, yeah, we are for Nigeria, because obviously what's going to make Obi stay beyond 2031 is if he's performing. But if he is not performing and the regime turns to be like what is going on now with the administration of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, then there's going to be a problem. Then he has to actually relinquish power to the North. And again, I believe that Obi is a man of integrity. So if he has said he's going to do just one tenure, then he should stick to it. Whether the pressure from Indigbo or whatever, it doesn't matter, because he has a gentleman's arrangement with Kwankwaso. So he has to do that. Power has to go back to the North. I hope they honor these arrangements. But what is most concerned to me is that, or what's most concerned to us is that we need a new Nigeria. We need a better Nigeria. And at the moment, we feel like let's give Obi a try for him to run and see what happens to Nigeria. If he could take Nigeria from this present situation to a better situation. So my friends, if you're just joining us for the first time, like I said, please do hit the like and subscribe button. There is more from where this has come from. So just hit the like and subscribe button, follow us, and we get more of this to you. Thank you very much for tuning in. God bless. I'll see you again. Bye-bye.